Hello, beautiful moms and entrepreneurs. My name is Charisse Walker, and I'm your host of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. This is a place where we come together to learn, grow, and inspire. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. Welcome to another podcast episode. I'm your host today, and my name is Charisse Walker. And today I am so excited to have Bern Mendez in the house. The whole reason why I wrote this book over here is because sometimes we deal with some trauma and we deal with issues in our life that have affected our decisions later in life. And so today we're not talking about business, we're not talking about entrepreneur, we're talking about relationships and healing yourself. So if you are having a hard time and you're dating someone or you're getting ready to date, and if you're single especially or divorced, today is the day and you need to listen. So without further ado, Bern, why don't you introduce yourself to us?
Hey, Charisse, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. I appreciate your energy, and I love that you are into the not just relationships, but also into trauma and things that really impact relationships. My name is Bernardo Mendez, but Bern is way easier to pronounce for everyone in this country. And I am a dating and relationship coach. I've been doing this for 14 years, and I specialize in helping single women in midlife to create loving relationships that they've been unable to create maybe the majority of their life, figuring out what's not working, what their blind spots are, and then what are some tweaks they can make in the way they show up in life and in the way they frame their ideas and their needs so they can connect with someone who can become the love of their life as a second part of living. You know, sometimes we don't get it right the first time, but then we get a chance to do it all over again. That's the greatness of life.
I know, but here's the thing is because when I was writing this book, I did so much research and I found out that marriage, although the divorce rate has gone down a little, and my theory is because people are choosing not to marry, they're now living together instead of getting married, but whatever. And so then what happens is they get married again and they never healed from the first one. And so then they make another mistake. And so the second marriages are like 68% divorce rate. And so I'm trying hard not to be that statistic, and it's hard. Marriage is hard, and then bringing someone in when you have stepkids or when you have additional kids and that whole mix is hard. And so what advice do you give, and this is a huge can of worms,
No
what
worries.
advice do you give to women who it's like, okay, women don't make the same mistake again, and they're going to unless they realize it and they heal. So how do you help people overcome that?
Well, but it's a great question. And part of the thing that I help my clients do is to recognize first what is the real underlying cause of their challenges. There's going to be symptoms, which is what most people come to me with. I can't find any guy who's attractive. That's a symptom. It's not necessarily a problem. I mean, there's aspects of it that are problematic, but it's a symptom. Or I attract emotionally available men. That's a symptom. So when you recognize, okay, here's what's showing up right now, but why is it this way? Then you can, with a higher degree of understanding and also with rewiring the way you experience life, which is your nervous system, how your nervous system is dictating who you choose before you even think that you're choosing. So when you get a chance to work at that level, then you can start making better decisions, because the truth is most people want a deep longing relationship. Some people say I'm going to be single for the rest of my life, but that's the minority of people. Most people do say I want my love story, epic love story. And the challenge with that is if you were going to, I don't know, become a brain surgeon, and I know that seems like an exaggeration, but you wouldn't just listen to a couple of podcasts and read a book and then go out and start doing surgeries. And yet relationships at the level that we want them to experience them are very complex. We want something that's never happened in human history, which is living with someone for 50 years and being in love at the end of those 50 years and have this expression of mental connection, emotional connection, sexual connection, all the things without learning how to do it. So when you have high expectations and the same level of skills that our parents had, and you can, I don't know yours, but you can check what the relationship was like, or your grandpa and grandma. So without the skills, it's really setting yourself up for failure. So part of my goal is to help people to know that there's nothing broken in them. There's just skills that if they learn, they can identify their future partner with more accuracy. They can figure out their own crap as well, so that they
Yeah.
don't take themselves with them and say, well, third person that this is happening with, I wonder why that is. Sometimes it's the
Mhm.
person that's in the relationship, not the
Yeah.
other one. So it's a lot of figuring out the root causes, and also understanding what are the triggers that get us hooked to the wrong person to begin with, so we can start diffusing them day by day.
See, that is something where when I was writing my book, I had to take it like 6 months off because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm reliving all this stuff. I can't handle it. And then when I
Mm.
realized, because the whole reason I wrote it was, hey kids, because I have six, I'm like, don't do what I did, right? And
Mhm.
so if you can figure out now that you're a product of divorce, I shouldn't say product, but now that you have experienced divorce with your parents, now you're even more leery that marriage can work. And so I wrote it to try to give advice, but as I'm writing it, and you can rewrite the narrative, you can do whatever in your mind to justify the marriage. But there's a lot of things that when I was in the marriage, it's like my husband didn't da 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 da. It's easy to blame. Like
Sure.
I, as a real estate agent right now, I'm dealing with a very ugly divorce with clients, and I'm like, you guys, you were with each other for so many years. Like this is ugly. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be that way. So then, as I'm writing it, I realize I was just as much to blame in this relationship as he was. And I really have some issues that I brought in from my childhood completely unaware
Yeah.
that all these triggers and all these different things and the safety and whatever it may be, that dang, I got some work to do myself. And I think that that's the part that I was talking with another friend, and he's going through divorce, or she. It's been years, right? That they were married, like years.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden they're getting a divorce, and this person already has another loved one on the side. They're not even like the ink isn't even dry. Like there's no ink yet. They're still married. And I'm like, dude, you are not ready. And they're like, oh, yes, I am. And I said, no, you're not. Like, you need to heal. You need, like, this is not this first marriage, and you need to make sure that you are not repeating the pattern and the issues. Oh, no, no, this person gives me blah, right? And I'm like, oh, because you're not healed. There's a reason why. And you had so much trauma in this current relationship that you're trying to get out of that you're going to bring it over. Like, do you agree or disagree with that?
I think that it's highly, highly likely that this person hasn't healed yet, but I'm not in the situation to
Yeah,
figure it out. Some
right.
people heal faster than others. Some people have been ready for a decade to end something. And then when they end it, it's a surprise to people outside, but inside they've been dying in silence for sometimes. So, but I will say that there's something really powerful about taking some time to
Mm-hmm.
really figure out what didn't go the way you wanted it to go,
Yeah.
and what is a part of you that made it not work, because you
Mm-hmm.
can't do anything about your partner at that point, but there's a lot you can do about yourself. So I'm a big
Right.
proponent of taking some time to figure out what's happening, to
Mm-hmm.
heal in many ways, and that's not the same healing path for everyone. Some people need a lot of therapy, some people need coaching,
Right.
some people need a
Mm-hmm.
combination of both, but there's something to be said about really taking a step back and recognizing that there's always two sides, and sometimes it's not 50-50,
Right.
it's 90-10 sometimes, but there's still that 10,
Mm-hmm.
if that's you, that can tweak things in a different
Mm-hmm.
way. And I'll also say that my heart goes out for this person, because it is very, very hard in this day and age to be alone.
Yeah.
I mean, and so
Yeah.
it's super. And if somebody doesn't know how to be alone, then they're going to continue. They'll continue choosing people to fill the void that can only be filled from within,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's why it doesn't work out, because
Right.
there's only so much that a person can give you, and
Mm-hmm.
and when you realize it's okay, the magic's gone because the dopamine level drops, and the
Mm-hmm.
honeymoon experience maybe is gone in 6 months, at that intense level where your brain is literally on cocaine. That's you do a study, basically they done studies where people
Yeah.
in love,
Mm-hmm.
recently in love, really passionate, and cocaine users, same type of dynamic takes place inside. So you're not even aware of what's going on. You have a lot of blinders that are
Right.
preventing you from seeing the truth in that person. So when the moment of truth comes and you realize the person is not an angel, then you're in that dynamic again
Mm-hmm.
where you either start from scratch again, or you try to make it work for 3 more years, even though you
Mm-hmm.
know it's not going to work.
Right.
And it's really clinically talking about well, I'm not going to say, because I don't know if you can swear on your podcast, but it's not a good thing.
Uh-huh. Yes. You can't. So thank you for, I would mute that
Sure.
now. Right? Like, okay, so there's something that you talk about, which I like. I bring this up in my book, and I
Sure.
think you might have a different opinion, and so I'm super
Okay.
excited to find out. You
Yeah.
talk about the question why trusting your gut in dating can keep you stuck in painful cycles, and the deeper emotional insight you need. So, can you expand on that?
Yeah. I think that if we're talking at a high, at a pure level intuition, intuition is a great tool. And I
Yeah.
believe in intuition.
Hmm.
Here's the challenge. When someone is, when someone's nervous system is hijacked, they think it's intuition, but it's not intuition. It's a high degree of trauma bonding, or it's an addiction of sorts, or it's a high degree of intensity. So if you say, well, my intuition tells me this person is the one, you have no idea who they are, that's when
Hmm.
intuition can fail you. So if like the rule of thumb I give to people is, if you haven't made relationships work for the most part, and you connect with someone and your intuition says this person is completely wrong, they give me a creepy vibe, trust it and be on the safe side. When
Yeah.
you connect with someone and you've not made it work before, and every part of your being shouts to the four winds, I found the one, and you haven't really spent the time of knowing that person, then it may not be intuition, maybe something else. So just put it on the back burner and say, okay, it's a hypothesis. I'm going to test to see if it's true or not, instead of going all in and calling your girlfriends and saying, hey, I found my person. Like, no, maybe not.
See, that's okay. So let's talk about the nervous system
Sure.
and how that, like, you've got to rewire it or what happens.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about that. What I don't even know where to start on that because how do you attribute the nerve? Like, what are you meaning when you say the nervous system, and how does that affect a relationship? I guess is
Well, let's start with something as basic as
Mhm.
attachment styles,
Okay.
which is a real thing that most people are either peripherally aware of now because of podcasts and internet, but not fully inhabiting in their present moment. So
Hmm.
let's start with something as simple as when you grow up as a child and you have a specific type of connection from your caregiver. And that connection is going to literally wire how you experience intimacy in life. So if you
Okay.
have someone who is really intrusive and really on you all the time, then you might develop something called avoidant attachment, which means, oh,
Yeah.
it's too much. Let me push away. When people get close, it's scary. So I'm going to push them away. If you have someone who's inconsistent, or you get abused in some ways and you fear abandonment, then you might wire inside of yourself as someone who is anxiously attached. So if you don't get a text message from the person that you are excited about in the right amount of time, and only you determine what that is, then you feel like they don't care about you, like they have abandoned you, they don't love you anymore. So
Sure.
that's the beginning. There's a lot more to it, but if
Mhm.
I'd say a huge part of the problems that we experience in intimacy have to do with not understanding what our attachment style is, what we bring
Mhm.
to the table, who we're connecting with, what their attachment style is. And the one of the worst examples, which is very common, by the way, because many people who are recycling themselves back in the dating pool have an attachment style that's either avoidant or is anxious. People who are more securely attached tend to stay longer in relationships. So more people in the dating pool are insecure attachers of some sort, and there's a combination of both, which is called disorganized. So if you connect with someone, if you have an anxious attachment, for example, and you really need closeness, and you need a lot of reminders, and you need people to tell you how much they love you all the time, and you connect with someone who's avoidant, and it's not saying that you can't change that
Yeah.
attachment style. You can, but if you don't work on it, then it's pretty much going to stay the way it is. Then the more you push that person to give you what you think you need, the more that person says, oh, you're too much for me. And the more that person goes away, the more the person goes away, the more the person gets anxious. So it's like a really bad cycle to be in. And many of the problems take place because you're asking each other for things that feel foreign to where you are, so yeah, that's the beginning of it. But there's a
Yeah.
lot more to it than that.
Mhm.
There's ideas also around how you uh, connect with people, how you experience intimacy,
Mhm.
how you are able to self-soothe when something challenging happens inside the
Mhm.
dating dynamic. And if you ever want a place where all your bad stuff is going to come out, it's dating. Because it's the most vulnerable thing. It's like being naked emotionally, physically, spiritually in front of someone who might
Mhm.
reject you and trigger all the wounds from childhood again. And so being able to soothe and to breathe and
Mhm.
to, again, bit by bit, experience intimacy differently so that you can connect with someone in a healthy way instead of being at the mercy of your triggers for the rest of your life without recognizing it.
See, and I think that, I mean, there's two things I want to talk about. One is, as the single mom that I was, self-soothing is an important thing, and I think that that's why I'm such an advocate of taking time after relationship and not jumping into another one,
Yeah.
because you don't have time to, like, as a baby, you put them down in the crib and then they cry because
Yeah.
you're not touching them. They have to learn to have self-soothe. Like, that's part of the developmental process. Or a baby who, they crawl before they run, right? Or walk. Mine didn't. But I think that part of those things, like as an adult, I love that you talk about the self-soothing. Like, how do you make sure that you are emotionally grounded so that you can then move forward? And I think a lot of times we as women, if we get out of a bad relationship, it's either I hate men and I'm never going to get married again, or I need my next guy right now type thing. And,
Yeah.
it's like we have to become secure with who we are and know who we are and what we are willing to give or not give. And that, like, here's my boundary. And there's a
Hmm.
few times where I wish that I would have stuck with that boundary because of what's happened afterwards. So that's the
Yeah.
first thing. The second thing was that you talk about, like, as a mom, and since this podcast is Mompreneurs, how you talked about all the different people. You like named each one of my kids, like their
Mm.
styles of avoidance, or yeah. And so, how do you help your children who have been emotionally affected by a divorce or by not
Mm.
having a father figure in their life for whatever reason?
So I'll say a few things about that, and maybe it's not the most traditional advice that you'll hear. The first thing I'll say, there's an aspect of this, like the hidden elephant in the room, without which everything else will be a technique that will fall empty in their ears. The first thing
Okay.
has to do, and it's one of the hardest things in life, and you
Mhm,
probably already know this intuitively. I'm not sure how clear in terms of a framework it is, but the self forgiveness aspect of
mhm.
of you did the absolute best you could,
Yeah.
and now that you can do better, you will do better. That is huge, because otherwise there's this hidden element of guilt where you're going out saying, I wish I could have done differently, and I wish I could, and there's so much energy that's wasted. And I have compassion for that because I've experienced that myself. There's a lot of energy that's wasted on that, and on hoping that you could have been a better human being, where sometimes you have to fall off the cliff to become a better human being. So that's the first thing I'll say. Without the self compassion and self forgiveness,
Mhm,
it's really, really hard to help someone else. The second part has to do with your own regulation of your nervous system and your own self love and your own way of approaching things from a place that's clear and connected. Because you can share anything you want with your kids, as you know, but who you are now is the thing that will inform them
mhm.
in how to continue being.
Yeah.
So that's the second piece. It's like
Mhm,
being really connected to the present moment and being as grounded and as self-regulated as possible. So when you communicate whatever it is you want to communicate to your kids right now, it comes from a place of self-forgiveness and compassion, and also from that place of regulation. The third thing, that's even before we start with how you talk to them, has to do with I have a firm belief that there's a spiritual lesson in almost anything we go through, and
mhm,
that it's very likely, and again, not that you would volunteer them for this type of ride in any way, but since it happened, that there might be a spiritual lesson for them that they signed up for in this lifetime, that without your divorce and without your pain, they may not be able to break free from. So
mhm.
once those three things are clear, and only then then it's having open conversations with them. And it depends on how, because if you have six children, my guess is they range in ages.
They
So I
do.
don't know if you've ever seen this beautiful videos on Wired magazine where they get maybe an eminence on AI, and or maybe an eminence on harmony, like
Mhm.
Jacob Collier, and they get to talk to someone who is 4 years of age or 5 years of age, and then uh, 12, and then
Mhm.
so five different stages of the same subject. So this is harmony for a 5 year old, this is harmony for a 12 year old, for a
Wow.
master student in music, and then for an actual genius. So at that level, being able to communicate kind of like what you've learned and
Mhm,
what you are doing right now to make things different, and also opening up the conversation to figure out
mhm.
what their experience is like. And it takes a long time. It's not one conversation and we have the conversation. No, no, it's going to be years of small
Mhm.
conversations where they get a chance to witness you happy, alive, connected, rewired, experiencing love differently. That will inform, okay, even though I experienced this, this is possible. Obviously, sometimes therapy is also going to be needed. Like sometimes it's just the fact of life. I did something that my kids interpreted, and I mean, it wasn't good for them. So they may have to do their own work as a result of this. And I can facilitate as much as possible. And it's still going to be on them at a certain point in life, especially if
Mhm.
they're adults, to deal with it. But it's
Yeah.
lots of honest conversations coming from a place of self love and self forgiveness. And I'm doing the best I can now. That is very different from the best I could do 10, 20, 30 years ago when I first had you, and and I think part of it is going to be them realizing when they've lived longer that they'll make some big mistakes as well,
Mhm.
and that's part of the legacy, that they're going to leave on. But the best thing you can do right now is change the story for right now. Show them in real action that the love that you hope for them is possible,
Mhm.
and that's the best we can do right now.
Such good advice. So let's talk to the single women that are listening right now.
Sure.
And that obviously they're smart because they're entrepreneurs, they're working hard to build their own businesses and try
Yeah.
to like juggle it all, right?
Yes.
So why do they try to win over these men that typically could be unavailable or they go for a
Mhm.
certain type? What is your advice to them?
Well, I'll answer that in two ways. First is why, and then what would I share with them. The first thing is why. I mean, why has sometimes something to do with what we were talking about a little earlier. What you experienced in childhood is a set point, a thermometer. Let's call it that way, metaphorically speaking. So your parents were really maybe abusive or mean or dismissive. That's the temperature you got wired at initially in life, and then what happens after that is you want something different, but without doing some work to change that thermostat, your thermostat is still set at that temperature.
Mhm.
So, what happens when you had someone who was inconsistent in your life and you haven't done the work, then you're going to secretly want that same type of connection. So, you connect with someone and your nervous system is really intelligent and will know it's at some level, this person is going to treat me the way my mom or my dad treated me. So, they seem magical to you. I don't know what's about this guy. It just seems incredible. Okay. And it's your mom or your dad, basically in the back of your mind playing, you know? And sometimes the opposite is true. You connect with someone who's really chill and who
Mhm.
is different from what you experience, but you think it's boring because you're not getting this Mexican soap opera drama ups and downs of roller coaster that your nervous system is used to. So that's a couple of reasons why it happens. Also, sometimes I think that there's something to be said about most of us in this dopamine age are optimizing secretly for attraction and for intensity and for chemistry. So I've connected with lots of women who tell me, I want a guy who's kind and like blah, blah, long list of lists. When push comes to shove, the guy who is the most charming and the guy who is the hotter and the guy who is more a bit of a player, but not overtly, but still kind of that
Mhm.
vibe is the one who hooks them. There's inconsistency hooks people. There's intermittent reinforcement where somebody's breadcrumbing you. You'll feel very, very, very attached to that person, and you won't know why. Just the way your nervous system works
Mhm.
is wired for inconsistency. So if you are someone who is listening to us right now and you're a single woman and you're a single mom and you're saying to yourself, but I want to find someone and you haven't found that person, I'd say taking a step back from the dating apps for a little while is healthy until
Mhm.
you figure out what's really going on. That's part of the work that I do, helping people to just take a break and then come back with
Mhm.
strength and not have that challenge be repeated. Figure out what's really going on, and then also start choosing people in a way where you don't have to know the moment you meet them that they're going to be the one. I think a lot of us have this secret idea that there's the one, which I think is complete BS. It's not true. There's 4 billion men on the planet. How
Yeah.
can one be the
Yeah.
one? So that's the
Yeah.
first thing. Second thing is that you should know the moment you meet them. And if you don't feel those butterflies and that explosion of the heart that they're not that person, what happens when that's the case and when you're wired for inconsistency, that you're going to leave gold on the table every single time. So if you take more time to get to know someone, if you go on more dates before you decide that person is not the one, obviously if there's something glaring, blatant, obvious the first
Mhm.
date, never see them again. But if the reason why you're not seeing them again is because your heart's not exploding with passion, but there's something there, then take a little longer to figure out if it's true or if it can grow. And if it can grow, continue seeing them. If it won't grow by the third date, stop seeing them.
Mhm.
But don't go for the instant gratification of connection, because many times when it's a yes, it's be the wrong person, and when it's a no, it's also the wrong person. So just take a little longer to get to know people.
Amen to that one. And because you have to, like, one of my daughters right now is dating a guy. They dated for a little while and she's just like, I don't feel that. I don't feel the chemistry. I'm not interested. So they took a break for a while and she went and did some work herself. And then she came back and now they're like dating. They've been dating for a couple months and it's great. But
Mm.
I have another one that's been dating for a year and I'm like, what's the deal here? He's a good guy. Okay. It's been a year. So, what's your advice to women who have been dating for a long time and there's not really any progression, but it's fun, it's comfortable? What's your advice on that?
Well, it depends on their age. If there's somebody younger, for example, your daughter, if she's young, then she's in maybe the stage of life where that's the thing to do. Most of the clients that I work with are not that young. They're in midlife, so 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. So they are clear about what they want. And if you're clear about what you want and it's not happening, then taking a step back to figure out why it's not happening is really important. It might be that the person you're connecting with really wants something different than what you want, and you've never had the conversation. You have no idea how many people I've spoken with
Mhm.
when they've been dating somebody for 6 months, 7 months, even longer, and what does he actually want? I don't know. I mean, I think he wants something serious. Like, how can you not know? And it's not like a shaming question. It's just sometimes asking that question very early on, not from a place of tell me if you meet my checkbox, but I'm curious. What are you looking for in a relationship before you start dating someone? Makes a lot of sense because they'll share a little bit of what they want. If it doesn't even fit your own universe, then why even date them? As hot as or awesome as they seem to be, if it does seem to match, then continuing to have that conversation more times matters. And I'm a big proponent of getting to know someone really well. Uh, I mean, if you're, especially if you want to get married and sign the dotted line and join forces in front of the law, I mean, spend at least a year. That's the minimum getting to really know that person, but maybe even 2 years before you say, yes, let's get married.
Mhm.
Because when you go through a couple of cycles of life, you get to see a much better picture about who the person is, the relationships, the great things, the things that are not so great, and then make a more informed decision about if that's really the person you want to spend the rest of your life with. And also saying that if you choose not to marry again, that's also cool too. There's nothing
Mhm.
better or worse for some people about getting married versus living with someone for the rest of their lives. It's just you get to decide right now. One of the cool things about midlife is you get to choose what do I want going forward, even if it's different from what I first experienced. That's going to give me the highest likelihood of getting the type of love that I want. And so I have clients who are interested in something as intimate as marriage, some clients who want life partnership, no marriage, some people who want to live in separate houses but still have that union. So there's no right or wrong. It's just what do you want, and does that person want something very similar so you can make it work?
Yeah, and others that they're open marriage where they have multiple
Yeah, I mean
relationships.
that also happens.
It does. I'm not a proponent, but
Yeah, I'm not either. I do know that people do it, and some people are really
yeah,
happy. So yeah.
yeah, yeah, I do. All right, there's so many more things I could ask, and I know that our time is short. I really just hope that the women listening can understand that I think that we both agree that you need to know what is important to you and what matters and what do you want. Because if you
Yes.
can't get that clear, then how are you going to be able to choose someone? And the second thing is, what are your thoughts? Like, I talk about how you spend all this time planning and you spend all this money on this wedding, right?
Mhm.
But how much money and time do you spend on figuring out who you are, what you want, where do you want to be? And quite frankly, do you really know your spouse or the
Yeah.
person that you're going to have as a spouse? And so what's your take on that with investing money
Yeah.
in yourself so that you can make the right decision and not waste all that money on this wedding?
Yeah, well, for that, I'd say that it's important, and everybody's in a different stage emotionally and financially. It does make sense to, if something's not working, like, 'cause here's the thing, if your business not working, people typically have no problem hiring a business coach when their business is not working. I mean, some people do, but it's looked well upon. If you need to figure out how to learn something, some sport thing, I mean, get your kid a coach for soccer or
Mhm.
for basketball. It's like the thing. But for relationships, people enter this element of shame. And the element of shame is, why will I pay someone to teach me something that seemingly is natural? So here's what I would say regarding that, because I think that's the biggest impediment in people getting help and investing financially in something that is less clear sometimes than business work.
Mhm.
And that is that if what you want is a weekend boyfriend, you do not need help for that. You can put on a miniskirt, go to a cool bar, flirt with a couple of guys, and you leave that night with a boyfriend. What kind of boyfriend? Who knows, right? But if what you're seeking is the type of connection that most human beings will never get, if you want something that's deep and something that stands the test of time and something that is connected at every level, that's a different story. And what seems natural when you see, well, I have all my friends are married, and like, well, how happy are those friends? Most people live quiet lives of misery and desperation in
Mhm.
relationships or mediocrity. And that's not, if that's not what you're looking for, then taking a little bit of time to understand and learn can save you decades of pain. So,
Mhm.
but I'm also understanding when people feel a little bit of like hesitancy, because there's a lot of bad
Mhm.
stuff out there. Everybody has their own ideas, their own strategies, and a lot of it is just not good.
Yeah.
So, taking the time to connect with people, figure out who can help you, what are some of the qualifications that are needed for someone to really help you, not traumatize you more. Like those things matter. But if you're someone who's listening and saying, "Hey, I want some help," then I may be able to help. Reach out.
And so that's where, how do they reach out to you?
Easiest way is to go to my website, bernmendez.com. That's BERNMENDZ.com. And there's a quiz you can take that's free that gives you your attraction blind spot, your biggest one. You can connect to my YouTube channel. I have hundreds of free videos. And also, if you want to apply to work with me, there's a link there that you can apply, and then we can get on a conversation, find out if this can work.
All right, thank you. And so now let's go to the business side real fast. You're starting this business, you're doing coaching, you're doing things like that. So are you a proponent of one-on-one coaching? Do you do group coaching? Do you do both? And why?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on what stage of life you're in. Because if you're starting a coaching business, starting with a group is a much more intimidating experience for someone, and
Mhm.
you may not be able to be the best service provider for that group if you haven't fully understood what's really going on and have a few really good case studies under your belt. Once that's happening, I have an approach that's mixed. I have very intimate small groups where I coach a small group of women. They have similar ideas, different, similar vibes, maybe different story, but same essence of what they need. And I also give my clients access to me through Slack, where we can connect one on one outside of the group synchronously. So it's not we're not getting a live call, but if somebody has a challenge after the call, we talk on Monday, instead of holding their breath for 6 more days with anxiety, message me on Monday night or Tuesday. Hey, here's what this guy's messaged me. What's up? And then I'll reply. We'll figure it out. When we come back next Monday, we can go on to the next biggest thing. So I think for me, and this is different for each person, the group is going to provide a container that will allow you to see things about yourself you'd never in a million years see if I hide in a closet and talk to you exclusively. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's so much more you can learn both on the inspiration side of things and on the I see myself right now, and it's hard because but when I see it in this person, I know I need to shift this, so that's something helpful. But also having the privacy, if there's something you can't ask in the group or you need more immediate assistance with, be able to reach out and then get some guidance. So that's, for me, that's the best approach in a coaching. I'm not a big proponent of lots of like massive groups, because I think it's not intimate enough for people to really share what they want. I am a big proponent of, within that group, I also have a video program people are following. So instead of spending 2 hours teaching them stuff and be really tired of teaching the same stuff, they can learn it in their own time. I mean, I provide that for them, and then they can ask me questions about it. So we can spend more of the time on things that are the best use of our time, which is not just learning the new things, which I'm going to learn those basic things in the videos. But then when we're live, I'm going to answer questions that are very specific to each person and can tweak those messages to really fit the lives of my clients.
I love that. And that's so what's your size of group that you recommend? That you
The groups that I have right now are between 6 and 8 people. 8 is the maximum that I want to have, because otherwise the call gets too long. So
Mhm.
the longest I want a call to last is 2 hours. I think
Okay.
that's limit for most people, including myself. But
Mhm.
hour and a half to 2 hour long call is beautiful, and people get to know each other and they get to support each other, and it's they create friendships sometimes that last for life. So it's really powerful thing.
I love that. And how do you get your clients?
YouTube. YouTube,
Okay.
that's pretty much it. I mean, YouTube organic. I mean, I'm starting to do podcast right now, but this is
Yeah.
fairly new for me. So
Mhm.
people watch a video on YouTube and they like what they see, then they may directly go to my website, or they might get onto a quiz, and then if they like what I have to say, then they request a call, and then we connect. I'm also not someone who has other coaches teaching for me or people having calls which are like sales calls. I
Mhm.
hate that approach because I hate being sold to. So my approach
Mhm.
is, if I see that I can help someone, and that's why I have an application, then
Mhm.
I'll connect with someone and I'll figure out really what's going on. And if there's a strong vibe in terms of here's what I see and the person agrees and we can work on it, great, I make an offer. If not, then no harm done. It's not the most scalable way to grow a business, but it does ensure that I can
Yeah.
absolutely help someone, and that it's an intimate experience from the beginning. And that if I add someone to the group, it's going to be a great addition to the group. And that I can pinpoint to that person, hey, what I think right now for my heart is that therapy would be more helpful for you, and not waste somebody's time or energy on something that will be just not useful, because coaching is not cheap. Good
Yeah.
coaching is not cheap,
Mhm.
but but if you do it right, then it can be life changing for someone. So that's the cool thing too.
Well, and I think that that's part that, especially with relationships, like your whole life, your business is affected by the relationships. Your kids are affected by the relationship. Your
Yeah.
health is affected. Like I talk, I'm very
Yes.
open how I was diagnosed with MS when I was in my first marriage. And once I got out of
Hmm.
that 6 months after the divorce and stuff, I was retested. It was gone. Like that's how
Wow.
much stress can affect. And so, like,
Yeah.
if you really like put a dollar sign to that, it's coaching is way cheaper than that spinal tap that I got, right? And so, or multiple spinal taps. And so I think that it's just, you have to put it in perspective as well and realize that your life, your happiness rests upon making sure that you're healed and that you are making good decisions so that you're prepared and you can make a healthy decision for your next relationship. So I love that you're doing that.
Yeah, and it also when you get to see, because after many years of doing this, you get a chance to see
Mhm.
what works, what doesn't work, how strongly it works. So it's
Yeah.
easier for you to identify, okay, this person, given the context, what they're bringing to the table, what I see, what they're answering, their level of openness. Here's what I think I can give. I can give them, And this person, much more closed up. They're rejecting the ideas that I bring. Like, I don't think it's a good idea to work together. So
Mhm.
that's something you can say. But when you get to read, like I got a chance this week to read something. I think on Monday, a client of mine who posted something. I mean, I opened up Facebook in the morning, which usually I don't, and I saw this beautiful post. I was recording a webinar with her in
Mhm.
it, and then the post she did that day was incredible. She was sharing how she's celebrating her ninth anniversary of being with this person. And she has three anniversaries. One is the day they got married. Another one is the day I think they, something else. And the third one was the day they met. And she was
Mhm.
sharing about how they met and how 5 years later this guy took her to the same ice cream spot to propose.
Mhm.
And just this such a beautiful description of what's going on in her life right now. And I pinch myself that I get a chance to be a small part of that. I don't tell myself I did it, because I didn't.
Mhm.
I just know how this person showed up and what she
Mhm.
had in mind, and the disillusionment in love that she experienced, and the thought that it's not going to happen again for me again. To see her go from that to saying that she thought this was just make believe or movies, this type of love, is so breathtaking. So that's the kind of thing that keeps me going, because, as you know, having a business is not always fun and it's not
Yeah.
always easy.
Yeah.
So having something that is just goes beyond the cash you receive from someone
Mhm.
is the purpose that maintains this, and what allows you to create more and to really have a purpose driven business, which is
Mhm.
way more fun than just a cash business.
Yeah, I agree. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Charisse. I appreciate being here, and thanks for your questions and for your energy. And yeah, I really enjoy this conversation.
No, so did I. I wish we could keep going. But Unbreakable Moms, I hope that as you're listening to this, you realize that if you are struggling and you're just not feeling very good about your relationship or yourself or making the strong decision, then reach out and make sure that you get the help that you need. And not that, like, I don't want you to think help is a shame thing, but we all need to have improvement in our lives and maybe a different perspective. And so go out and make it a great day. And if you like this, please share and subscribe. Beautiful moms, remember, you are unbreakable. Keep illuminating the world with your strength, pursuing your dreams, and reveling in the splendor of motherhood. This is Charisse Walker, bidding you farewell for now. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on the next episode of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. Until then, keep shining bright. Signing off with love, Charisse Walker.